either during or at the end of the call or within the next week. Just leave your contact information. And with that, I think we're pretty much ready to go. So I will turn it over to Ray Davis, who is presenting today's topic.
Thank you, Rich. Just confirm you can see my screen and we are recording.
Yes, we are.
Okay, cool. Want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's the conclusion of our spring 2025 semester, Raising the Records Management Bar. And again, we're talking about a topic that a lot of you asked about in our questionnaire that happened, our survey that happened after the last semester. And we'll talk about the upcoming survey you'll receive after this class. So ready or not, here AI comes. We've had a really busy semester. We've talked about gaining organizational support and e-discovery. We've talked about metadata. We've talked about auditing. And again, this is the final class of this semester, about AI. I am your host, Ray Davis. I'm a senior principal consultant for records and information management here at Innovative Development. I have over 30 years in the profession. I'm the Army Keystone PA chapter president, and just love doing what I'm doing in records management and information governance. And Rich Slaughter, whose voice you just heard, he's the marketing manager here at Innovative Development. He's got over 10 years in the profession. He's the vice president of the Army Keystone chapter, and he is also the ACEDS Philadelphia chapter president. So as you can see, we're thoroughly entrenched in records management and information governance and love being there. I guess I just have one question before we start, and that is, are you ready to start class 5? Because I know I am. So if we all want to give it a woohoo, let's get into the class. We're going to start with a little Q&A. We'll move on to my introduction to artificial intelligence. We'll talk about the evolution of artificial intelligence, the types of artificial intelligence, the use of AI in records management. There are risks when it comes to artificial intelligence. We'll talk about that. There's definitely rewards to artificial intelligence, and we'll speculate. We'll talk about the future of artificial intelligence, and then we'll bring the semester to a close, and then we'll head off for the summer. So again, let's kick into it, and we'll start with a little Q&A. We have a question. It actually came from the 3rd class. We got back to the person who asked the question directly, but we never posted the answer in the next class, which was the last class. And I just thought I would share the question again and then the answer with you. We were talking about metadata and the use of metadata, and a question came up, and that was, is email metadata lost when using the email cleanup function in Outlook? And I had never used the cleanup function, so I didn't know the answer to that. So we went internally to an individual here at Innovative Development, and the answer that you see on the screen is what they said. Outlook's cleanup helps reduce clutter by removing redundant messages within email threads, moving them to the deleted folder. When the email itself and its associated metadata are moved to the deleted items folder, they are not immediately deleted and can be recovered. It's only after emptying the deleted items folder or after a retention period is passed are they gone. So that was the answer to that question, which then prompted me to come up with a question for you. And I'm not asking you to answer the question here. Just, do you know the answer to this question? If you are using records management software, when you delete a record, does the metadata remain after the record is destroyed? I am a records manager who is also a control freak, which I think is a good thing. And the reason why I asked that question is this. You want to know that you've destroyed the records when it's reached the end of its legal life or the end of the life beyond that you've chosen for it to remain in your organization, and then it gets destroyed. When it comes to electronic records, they leave a footprint we'll call metadata. If you destroy the record, as a records manager who wants to make sure that we do things properly, my personal opinion is that as a records manager is I want the metadata from the electronic record to remain in the system, not the record itself. The record gets destroyed when it's supposed to, but I want the metadata to stay. And the reason why I want the metadata to stay is so that we prove that the record was there in the first place. If the metadata leaves your system along with the record, you really can't say whether you ever had that record or not. But if the metadata remains and you do a search and somebody says, I need this certain record, if you find the metadata and you say, okay, well, it was destroyed in January of this year in accordance to our approved record retention schedule and the policies and procedures we've got, you're thoroughly protected by that, but at least you can prove that you had the record to start with. If the electronic records metadata is gone with the record, you would have no way to prove you ever had the record to start with. So that's why I want the metadata to actually be there. So whether it's a line of business system, and definitely more important, records management software, which is built to retain that information. And sometimes with the records management software, you have the authority to say, yes, I want to retain the metadata, or no, I don't. You have the option. As a records manager in my program, I would always pick yes. As a wise previous boss of mine once said, if you ask that question in a room full of 10 lawyers, 5 will come down on yes and 5 will come down on no. But to me, it all depends on what do you believe as a records manager, and do you want to be able to prove that the record was there, but you destroyed it in accordance to your policies and procedures. So that's the question. Look at what you've got: line of business systems, records management software. And when you remove a record from the system, be able to answer the question, does the metadata remain? This really isn't a question for you. This actually is just a follow-up. I actually saw this this past week. In the last class, we talked about auditing. And one of the questions that we asked is, does everybody have to have an audit? And the answer is no, you don't. There are some professions or industries. I was in banking. We had not only state auditing, federal auditing. We had our own internal auditors. You had to have audits in the financial services industry, and we were in investments. We had an investment division. We had an insurance division. Those type of businesses would require audits, but not every business does. But in this case, I wanted to show this as an example. What caught my eye is this is in the town next to me. I'm in southern New Jersey, and Riverton, New Jersey is not even a half a mile away from me. And at one point in time, when my niece and nephew were going to college in Virginia, my niece said she wanted to start her own coffee shop. And she said they would pick a spot right next to the university they were at. College students were always in the coffee shop. They were always drinking coffee. And that would be a good business to have. And I always talked about, maybe I could fund the business, and I don't live in Virginia, but I could at least fund it and they could work it, and we could work it as a business. And that never happened. That never took place. But when I saw this on Facebook last week, here was a local business that wants to sell their business for $168,000. This isn't all the information. This was just a snapshot that would fit on this page. There was more information below what you see. And they say that the gross revenue was $345,000 in a year. Now, this business doesn't have to, have any, audits per se. But if I were looking to contact my niece and nephew and say, do you really want to start this coffee shop, which also does breakfast? They've got good information to start. Their gross revenue is $345,000. What is their revenue after expenses? It's not that I would be looking for a regular audit like a bank would have done, but I'm definitely looking for something. If I'm going to buy this business, I'm definitely looking for something beyond accounting software, because you can plug any numbers into accounting software or do an Excel spreadsheet and fake the numbers. So if they want me to consider buying their business, then I would need some type of certified records that pertain to their annual business. An income statement. I don't necessarily need to see the balance sheet, but I definitely need to see the income statement, and they should be using some type of an accountant or tax attorney that can certify that those records were reviewed and are accurate. And I'm not just taking somebody's word for it. So again, this restaurant, this breakfast place, they never need to have an official audit like we would at a bank. But there are times where I would even look for some type of certified tax review or taxes that are reported to the state of New Jersey to make sure that the numbers that we have going through are right. So just covered that one as well. I want to talk to you about Ray's introduction to artificial intelligence because it all goes back to when I was a kid. Now, when we talk about Star Wars, that's a long, long time ago in a land far, far away. We're just going a long time ago here. And that's when, as a kid, I used to watch the Jetsons, and they had a robot named Rosie. And I didn't know as a kid that Rosie was a representation of artificial intelligence, but that's who Rosie was. You know, Rosie was the electronic version of a maid. She cooked the meal. She kept the home clean. She could help the kids with the homework. She did everything around the household that they would need done. So, you know, even back then, that was, unbeknownst to me, that was my introduction to artificial intelligence. I don't know whether the Jetsons is still on today because that's a long time ago, but I do know that there are still some cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons that are still running after all these years. And it's been a long time since I've been a little kid. That moved on, obviously, to automated call attendants, which I personally hate. I'm looking for the human factor. I want to hear that person's voice. I I can admit, and I don't say this proudly, that I am probably one of the few that got hung up on by an automated call attendant. I was using OnStar in my vehicle, and I wanted to make a phone call. And the first thing you say is OnStar dial, and it'll come back and say phone number, please. And then you start to give the number. And as I would start to give the number one day, it just wasn't cooperating. And it kept interrupting me, going, pardon, pardon, pardon. And by the time I got the third pardon, I can't get the number out. Again, not proud of myself. I cursed out the automated call attendant on OnStar, which was AI. And I laughed because the next thing I heard was the automated attendant go, goodbye. And they hung up on me. And I thought that was hysterical. So again, not proud I got cursed out an automated call attendant, but it happened. And then, you know, a lot of things that we've gotten into recently is artificial intelligence being used through app trackers. I thought about this right before we started the class. I wish I could have done a slide to take a vote, but I don't know if you're like me, but when I load an app on my phone or my tablet or my computer, when you load it and you first use it, it asks you if you want notifications, and I say no. And then it says, allow app to track or ask app not to track. And I always click ask app not to track. But I'm a cynical person, and there are times where my mind is set a certain way. And I don't know how you feel, but I believe, excuse me, and I can't prove any of this. If I ask an app not to track, I still believe the app is tracking me anyway. And there's no way for me to prove whether it is or isn't. It's just how I feel. So I don't know. I don't know where you come down on that one. But that's kind of how it goes with me. And that's my introduction, excuse me, to artificial intelligence. I want to take a quick sidestep. I wanted to recommend 3 different documentaries that are out there. And they're probably about maybe an hour and a half long each. And they're all based on different things. The first one is Coded Bias. That was done in 2020. And that was a documentary about the use of artificial intelligence, how information is collected, facial recognition, how that works. And even back then, 5 years ago, and I'm sure they've made advancements in those type of things, especially facial recognition, it basically showed you had to be careful knowing when certain things were being used, why they were being used, how they were being used, and was it accurate? Especially the facial recognition, which at that time wasn't as accurate as you'd like it to be. Another movie or another documentary was The Social Dilemma that was also brought out in 2020. And while that focused on one area of social media in particular, although it did talk about different areas, but focused on one mainly, it talked about how artificial intelligence was bringing you in and showing you content based off of what you've seen before and what could get you interested on clicking and liking and sharing and starting conversations, and then what was being retained in the background without your knowledge. And finally, a third documentary, The Great Hack, that came out in 2020, that dealt with a couple of different situations around the world, elections that happened, various votes for referendums that were taken, and how information was gathered by artificial intelligence and then used to potentially, and I say that because it's been to court before, but potentially get people to think a certain way or believe a certain way, even if what was posted out there for them wasn't 100% accurate, or was framed in a manner of which would try to influence the way they would think, or their actions would happen. So again, unfortunately, those three, yeah, there's some positives about it, but they also brought out the negatives, which is a good thing because you want to hear both sides of the argument. But if you have a chance, just think about those documentaries: Coded Bias, The Social Dilemma, and The Great Hack. All right, let's talk about the evolution of artificial intelligence. And the first thing that I will tell you is artificial intelligence did not start with ChatGPT 3 or 4 years ago. That may be the first time you really heard the phrase artificial intelligence, but that's not when it started. Artificial intelligence, or the development of it and the use of it, has really been around for quite a long time. In the 50s and 60s, artificial intelligence started where they were trying to see if they could develop ways for computers to help in problem solving. In the beginning, they talked about, playing games, having a computer play games with you. So what do you have to do? You have to educate the computer and AI on what game it is and what the rules are. And if you're using pieces, how can those pieces move? And what is the strategy of the game? What is the goal of the game? And how do you win? They were also looking at artificial intelligence to basically solve logic problems. If this happens, what would you do? Why would you do it? When would you do it? So that was a long time ago in the 50s and 60s, how it all started. In the 70s and 80s, it kind of, pumped the brakes a little bit. Interest lessened a little bit. There weren't as many significant breakthroughs as they were hoping. And of course, you also had to worry about the funding. Where was the funding coming from? Yet understanding that in using computers and logic and artificial intelligence, as time goes on, you're increasing the complexity of what you're trying to do. So that's what the 70s and 80s were all about. And then for records management, artificial intelligence, or the use of artificial intelligence in records management, was going to become more prevalent. There was no way to get around it, because what was determined quite a long time ago was the number of records that we're keeping, the amount of data, the amount of information just grows exponentially every year. And there is just no way for human beings to be able to process that data on their own. You would need some type of technological solution and the use of something like artificial intelligence to make that happen. So again, focusing back on artificial intelligence, what methods could you use that artificial intelligence would be good at? We're looking at the statistical methods, looking at ingesting a ton of information and coming up with statistics, coming up with all information about whatever you're looking at. And then also maybe doing some task-oriented things that are repetitive. And that happens a lot in records management. If you have things that are all task-oriented, it's the same thing every time, and you just have to repeat the task over and over again. Give it to artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, given the right rules, won't make mistakes. Human beings will. With that being said, I would like to take a moment, and I hate to say this, I'm not even sure that she's still with me, because I'm still with us because I've been out of Commerce Bank now for over 15 years. I had an assistant named Elaine, and Elaine is basically, well, she's back then, she was my age now. So Elaine was awesome. Elaine didn't use computers a lot, but Elaine was like artificial intelligence. If you could show her how to do something, just show her one time and walk away, and she would be perfect. She was like the human representation of artificial intelligence. And she was one of my best employees, and I thought she was awesome, and I still do. So when it comes to task-oriented things and giving it to a computer, if I had a human computer to give it to, that would be Elaine. So Elaine, again, I don't know if you're still with us, but you were awesome, and I thought you were always great. From 2010 to present, advancements in artificial intelligence is happening because we want it to, of course, but also from a technological standpoint, there are also some factors that are aiding in artificial intelligence advancement. Number one, costs, cost effective with storage. I forget, if you were to price a 1 terabyte drive 5 years ago to what a 1 terabyte drive is now, the cost has dropped humongously. So the cost of storage drops. So when you're talking about dealing with artificial intelligence and putting in a lot of information, a lot of data for it to analyze, it's low cost. Storage is low cost. So you have a place to store your information and your data. For big data, and that's what fuels AI, you have humongous amounts of data that's coming in that human beings are not going to be able to analyze efficiently or as efficiently as computers and AI. So that's where big data now excels. You can put all that big data into it, and it'll just crunch all the numbers and analyze it all. And depending on how you set it up, will come back with information that you're looking for. When it comes to records management, you can now use AI if you want to do classification and categorization of your records. Case in point, and the easy example for me to put out there is the capstone approach for email retention by government agencies. If you know the capstone official's email address and you have the right software, you can set up a capstone official list, which lists the email address of the each capstone official and the date that they started as a capstone official. There may not be an end date because they're still a capstone official, or maybe there is an end date. But artificial intelligence, as email is coming into your system, will compare every email sent and received to see if anyone on that capstone list is in that list. And if they are, then their record will be categorized as a capstone official, which means it will be kept permanently. So that just shows you one area that classification and categorization can be done by artificial intelligence. There's definitely other ways as well. And I apologize for my coughing. For some reason, I'm coughing today. Types of artificial intelligence. As I go over this list, I'm going to tell you that I am not an expert in AI. I'm an amateur in AI. I understand it. I have to do much more studying, and I can tell you what I'm going to tell you in the next few slides could be a little bit different because there are advancements in AI that we don't know about yet. It's being done behind the scenes. Once either a whistleblower comes out and says something's being done, or a product or service is now available because of an advanced AI, that's when you'll find out that new things are happening. So as an example, for the first type of AI, it's narrow or weak AI. We're used to this type of AI. It's designed for specific tasks, and it excels at those tasks. It lacks general intelligence or consciousness. You have to tell it what it's doing. So whether it's virtual assistants, whether it's spam filters or facial recognition software, those are just a few examples. Those are the type of things that works with narrow AI. When ChatGPT first came out, basically there was a ton of information that was dumped into this AI engine. And then when you asked ChatGPT questions, it could only comment on what information it had within inside of it. So if you didn't put, colors, red, blue, black, yellow, orange, green, whatever, whatever. If it had no knowledge of colors, it couldn't answer anything about colors because the information wasn't inside of it. So the intelligence of, in the beginning, ChatGPT and those type of engines were the information that was put into it and then what information was added to it afterwards. You have general or strong AI. When I was researching this, it said it's hypothetical AI with human level intelligence. It would possess consciousness, self-awareness, and common sense. It would have the ability to understand, learn, and apply knowledge across a wide range of tasks. When I read this, I thought, it says currently this type of AI exists only in science fiction. I can't prove it, but I also don't believe it. To me, AI is probably advanced a little bit further along than this. And finally, super AI. And this is the AI that scares people the most. This is technology is going to take over the world. AI and robots are going to run everything, and human beings are going to have to live underground. All the scary stories that you've seen in movies. Or if you're old enough to be me and you hear, Hal, what are you doing, Hal? Hopefully you know what movie that came from. And again, it's all about, that's the scary part, AI taking over and ruling the world. So again, that's where AI would possess intelligence beyond human capabilities, which then unpredictable, potentially uncontrollable behavior would happen. And that's not what we want to have happen. We want to be able to control that. Okay, let's talk about the use of artificial intelligence in records management. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk about here is something that I heard about on the way coming home from work last week, and that is in the city of Philadelphia. They are going to load cameras on the city buses, and those cameras are going to specifically be used when it comes to identifying if any non-bus vehicles are parked in spots along the curb, usually at corners, or if there are bus lanes, are there any vehicles parked in bus lanes where they shouldn't be? There is a huge issue, and I'm sure it's not just the city of Philadelphia, but it's around the country and probably around the world. People want to park in the most convenient spot, even if it means parking into a bus lane, because they're only going to be in there for 30 seconds. So it shouldn't be any real big deal if I park here, right? But what happens is if you have a city bus coming and they come to the corner or they need to pull in the bus lane to let people on, and a vehicle is parked there, now all of a sudden they can't pull in. So they have to stop in a lane where traffic should be moving, which then causes those people to try to come out and around the bus, which hopefully they're moving into a lane that's still going in the right direction and not into oncoming traffic. But they're also asking passengers to now, or potential passengers, to step off the curb and come out into the street and then get into the bus, which is dangerous not only for a regular pedestrian, but the concern is also for people with handicaps, whether they're using canes, they're using walkers, they're using a wheelchair or some type of device, and they really need to be on the curb to then take that next step up into the bus. And if you make them go into the street, that can, make something happen that you don't want to have happen. So I get it when they say the goal isn't to generate revenue, but is to promote bus and bus rider safety. I agree with that 100%. But the city of Philadelphia, as I'm sure with any other city, is not going to turn down the revenue from the tickets that get written in the beginning for any vehicles that are parked in the areas they shouldn't be. Now, the review and the analysis will be completed by artificial intelligence. The cameras will be loaded facing out the front of the bus. Again, I don't know who the software person is or company is, but supposedly the software will be able to identify whether it is a police car, is it an ambulance, is it just a passenger vehicle that shouldn't be there. And with the information that's loaded in it, it should be able to identify whether that vehicle should be there or not, even if it's a bus lane. If it deems that the vehicle is parked illegally, it has the ability to read the license plate, and then a ticket will be issued, to the owner of that license plate in that vehicle. So again, here's where current use, it's not, when I say it's not records management, really it is, because there's got to be somebody in the city of Philadelphia. Every ticket that's issued is a record. Um, every snapshot that's taken by AI to confirm what the vehicle was and the license plate number, that's a record. So it's records management related. But it's something that is now going to get into the city of Philadelphia from a record standpoint. So for the records manager of the city of Philadelphia, I take my hat off to you. You now have another, types of records that are coming in to the city of Philadelphia, and hopefully you've been aware of this for a while and have a setup for it. What I don't know, and hopefully I'll find out soon, how and what access does artificial intelligence have to the license plates? I live in southern New Jersey. I work across the bridge from Philadelphia. I'm actually in a small town on the other side of Philadelphia, and I can tell you on the streets of Pennsylvania when I'm coming home or I'm going to work, there are vehicles with license plates from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, that are there, numerous. And then you get periodically, you'll get other states like Florida, you get a few of those. Well, does artificial intelligence have access to the Division of Motor Vehicles in each of the states to identify who the owner of that plate and that vehicle is, or is that another step? So hopefully we'll find that one out. But let's talk about the uses of artificial intelligence in records management. There is definitely an automation of records management tasks. Anytime something is repetitive, it's done over and over and over again, like analyzing who the sender or receiver is in an email. That's a repetitive task that you can assign to software and artificial intelligence. Take it out of the hands of human beings. I'm not recommending this so that we eliminate jobs for human beings. I think there's plenty of work to do in records management where you can be assigned to another area of records management, another task that really requires human interaction. Down the road, currently now, but down the road, we're going to have AI-powered analytics. When I was at the bank, one of the things that we used to do was compare transactions to our branches, month to month, the one month to the next month, 1 month to the same month in the previous year, annual statistics. How many people were walking in, how many transactions, how many new accounts, how many closed accounts, and we would come up with statistics so that each branch would be able to know whether they were growing or not. And people back then, I've been out of there for over 15 years, people back then would have loved to have had an AI-powered solution to crunch all those numbers and create those statistics where they were doing their own manual accounts and doing spreadsheets. Natural language processing, that's where you're improving the accuracy of information retrieval, and you're enabling multilingual processing, and supporting conversational AI for better access to information and guidance. When you're using AI in records management, what are you supposed to be complying with? What are the regulations and laws you're supposed to be living by? And the risks you're trying to avoid. You can use AI to help you that. We talked about repetitive tasks. Workflows are repetitive tasks. Maybe you have a process where the process starts, it then has to be routed to one area of the organization, and they have to review it and say they agree or they don't agree. Whether they agree it goes one direction, they disagree it goes with another, or maybe they have to add something to it, whatever it may be. And the workflow continues until it's completed. That's all completed through technology and AI. There's no human intervention involved until either starting the process or the process ends. Categorization and classification. Currently using AI for that now, whether it be through the email. With AI, you have the ability to, well, I shouldn't say, if you have the right software, you have the ability to load all of your record types into your system. And then as electronic records come into your system, AI will compare the record coming in to all the record types that it has in the system. And if you don't tell it what record type it is and you have it set up properly, it can come back and say 50% positive, we recommend it's this record, or 75 or 99. Never seen 100%. Always not. If it goes, the highest I've ever seen is 99. But basically, AI isn't making the decision for you, but it's quarantining the records that did not come in with a record type assigned to it, and is making a recommendation on what it thinks it is. And now you make the decision whether AI is right or not. So again, if you can take categorization and classification out of the hands of human beings and put that into technology and AI, there's going to be a higher level of accuracy, and you'll free up your human resources to be doing other functions. Integration with emerging technologies. Are your systems talking to one another? Are you using APIs and connectors so that you're not doing individual searches? Let's just say you have 10 different line of business systems in your organization, and for some that's small. I've seen line of business systems go into the hundreds. If you need to do a discovery, do you have to do an individual discovery over every one of those systems? Or is there APIs and connectors that will allow those artificial intelligence to go out to each of those systems in a federated search to get the answers that it's looking for? So again, AI working with integration of emerging technologies is a positive for me. And finally, systems access and security. Only the people that should have access to your records should be granted the ability to log in with a username and a password. And artificial intelligence can make sure that as long as the lists are up to date, only those people get in that have the right credentials. Now, if somebody shares their logon and password, artificial intelligence isn't going to beat that, except now you see things like dual factor authentication, or depending on the security level of your system, it's going to want to text you a code to another device like your cell phone, and you have to then re-enter that access code into the system. So the system says, okay, Ray Davis does have access to the system. We sent a code to Ray Davis's phone, and he has just entered it. So we have to say, this is Ray Davis. So those are the uses of artificial intelligence in records management, and it only gets better from here. All right. Sometimes we have to talk about the negatives. And there are risks of artificial intelligence. And the risks aren't always artificial intelligence's problem to start with. There can be data biases based off of the types of information that are put into the engine that AI is using to review. At one point in time, and I think it's kind of funny now, I started to go to college to be a computer science major, which I think that's hysterical now because I'm not a computer science major. I'm fine with computers, but not to that level. And one of the expressions that we used, and I'm sure they still use it today, when it comes to computers and information, is GIGO, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. Information that is put into a search engine that AI is going to participate in, it has to be accurate information. If somebody puts in bad information, artificial intelligence isn't going to know it. What can only make that better is if more of the right information is loaded in, so then artificial intelligence can come back to you and say 75% of the time the information is this, but 25% of the time the information is that. And that's where you can start to say, why is there a conflict in the way this information is being analyzed? Was all the information put in, was it accurate information? Was it bad information? And you've got to do your analysis and figure it out. So you've got bad information and you've got data bias. So, can any biases happen because of the data that's involved? Well, one of the things that came out in coded bias was facial recognition, and that the facial recognition, again, back then, that movie was in 2020, so facial recognition may have made great strides over the last 5 years. Facial recognition was created back then mainly by white men. So when they were writing how facial recognition was happening, they were basing it off of the characteristics of white men. So when it came to accurate facial recognition of white women or people of color, that's when the accuracy started to drop, because it wasn't, the artificial intelligence wasn't being given the information to make those determinations. And that's where biases can happen. But that's been noted, and hopefully adjustments can be made to software. Although I'm not a fan of facial recognition, we won't go into that, but there can be data biases. A lack of transparency is big in my book. What are they doing? What is artificial intelligence doing? I told you that I truly believe that when an app says ask app not to track, and I click that, so I don't want the app tracking me, I believe it is. I can't prove it. But to me, there's a lack of transparency to know really what is AI doing. Is it complying with my request, or is it going against my request anyway? Security vulnerabilities can happen if you don't keep your security information up to date, who has access to the system, passwords, logons, dual factor authentication, or anything else that deals with making sure that only those people have access to the system. I know that a lot of people are concerned that job placement is an issue, or displacement is an issue, and they believe that they could lose their job over the use of computers and AI. Is that possible? I'm sure it is possible. But what I would like to think is those people that are having their current job duties maybe done by a computer instead are being reassigned, and they're doing other jobs within the system which are better done by human beings. Just like there are certain things that are better done by computers, I think there's jobs that are being better done by human beings. Over-reliance is another risk of artificial intelligence, and ChatGPT was a big example of that. Again, it would only spit back out the information or give you answers to questions that you asked that it had information in it. I know that from my previous employer, just for the heck of it, we asked ChatGPT to write a bio about me. Raymond Davis works for this company. He's going to make a presentation. Please give a bio for Raymond Davis. And some of the things it came back with was 100% accurate, and other things were totally wrong, which told me that within ChatGPT, there was more than one Raymond Davis listed, and it was pulling information from anybody that had the name Raymond Davis. So you just can't trust it 100%. You've got to read it. You've got to vet the information and prove whether you agree with it or not. But there was definitely an over-reliance on just accepting what ChatGPT or any other AI engine would spit out and saying that it was 100% accurate, and it's not. You really got to read it. And even though it's a risk, it's legal and compliance issues, it's a risk if you're not using AI to help you stay in alignment with them. As long as AI understands what the legal and compliance issues are and what it has to maintain, it should work out just fine. But again, make sure that artificial intelligence is working correctly in that area. With the risks are always the rewards. And that is, the first is improved efficiency and productivity. Again, computers are so much faster than human beings. And if you can give them the repetitive task where nothing changes, or a decision has to be made and it can understand the decision that was made, then there's going to be an improved level of efficiency and productivity, allowing artificial intelligence to manage it versus having a human being do it. And because of that, you're going to have enhanced accuracy and consistency. It'll be a much better speed. There'll be better information governance, because that will also be instilled within artificial intelligence, and it will make sure that it adheres to all your information governance policies and procedures. The next one, improved search and discovery. That is spot on, 100%. There is no way that a human being, as I said, can do things as fast. And if you can have, like I said, federated searches for electronic records over multiple repositories, whether it be records management software or line of business systems or SharePoint or shared drives, computers and technology and software are always going to be able to do it faster, and will bring your costs down because you'll reduce your discovery time, and that then leads into your reduced costs and then enhanced compliance. We do have one question, and that question is, can we expect laws to be passed that will restrict uses of AI in the legal field that may affect records and information management and e-discovery? I can't tell you for a fact whether it will or not, but if I had to make a bet, I'd say bet on it. What concerns me is when you have individuals that have the ability to introduce laws to be voted on and approved that may not have all of the understanding of what they're talking about. Case in point, ChatGPT. When ChatGPT came out, at first it was like, this is really great, this is really cool, we can do some things with it. And then almost overnight, it went to all of our kids in school are going to be having ChatGPT do their homework. ChatGPT is going to write all their papers. They're not going to know how to do research anymore. They're just going to go to ChatGPT. It was like somebody flipped a switch. And if laws would have been written at that point in time without statistical proof, one way or the other, laws can be enacted. So back to the original question. Can we expect laws to be passed that will restrict uses of AI in the legal field that may affect remedy discovery? I think there'll be laws that'll apply to any field, not just legal, but to any field. As advancements in AI come out, then there will be laws written around it to make sure that it's being managed properly. If not, then you're going to have people doing AI or writing AI that's not challenged and not vetted, and could be doing things that we don't know about. And let's talk about the future of artificial intelligence. And to me, sky's the limit. We've got the automation of records management tasks, and that's happening now. Process automation, whether it be through workflows, intelligent workflows, the records management lifecycle. If all of your records are in the system, they're categorized properly, your retention schedule is there, then do you really need human beings to give the approval to destroy your records? That's only an answer that you as a records manager can come up with, and your organization, and what your philosophy would be. I can tell you that as a records manager, one of the biggest challenges I had was getting end users who were in the positions to approve destruction to actually approve it. I could give them reports that said, these records under your control are eligible for destruction based off of our current and approved retention schedule and can be destroyed. Please confirm I can move forward with destruction. What I ended up doing was in my notifying them, I would tell them that on X date, if I did not hear back with a legitimate reason to retain the records for a longer period of time, I would accept that as their authorization to move forward with destruction. You can't give me a legitimate reason to keep them, and you can't do it in 2 weeks. We're going to follow policy and procedure. And some people weren't real happy with that, but it actually got the process moving, not 100%, but the majority of the organization jumped on board with saying they approved it or tried to come up with a reason why certain records should be retained for a longer period of time. But it comes back to the original question. If the records are categorized properly in your system, your retention schedule is accurate and up to date, and the system said, you can destroy these records, do you really need to go back to the owner of the record to say, can we destroy them? Legally, you can. So, but again, that's a decision made by your own organization. I think there'll be enhanced AI-powered insights and analytics. There'll be predictive analytics where it's not just artificial intelligence, mulling over tons of information and coming back with numbers and statistics and percentages. It'll actually come back with a prediction of where it thinks it'll go in the future, which also then leads into prescriptive analytics, which is a little bit different, where it takes all the information that comes out of the analysis and makes some recommendations on what you may want to do moving forward. Ultimately, it's you as the records manager that will either do that or not. But at least you'll be getting some insights and analytics about that you can move forward with. And then finally, contextual awareness. Artificial intelligence systems, I think they're going to become more contextually aware, which is understanding the relationships between records and the business processes they support and the broader organizational knowledge. And this will enable more intelligent information retrieval and, more importantly, more effective decision making. And that's what contextual awareness is. I think the future of artificial intelligence is going to deal with enhanced compliance and risk management, where it just won't be periodic compliance monitoring by a human being. It's going to be continuous compliance monitoring by artificial intelligence and technology. We talked about auditing last week, and I am still 1000% in favor of audits, however they may apply to whatever industry you're in or what size organization you're in. You always need that checks and balances to make sure that what you're doing is right. You need some type of confirmation to say, we've reviewed it and this is okay, this is fine. But you can also do things from an automation standpoint and using AI to maybe do some auditing continuously behind the scenes. Some of those analytical things I talked about last week, where we would pick, I don't know, 3 to 6 cost centers, which could be departments or branches in an organization, and we would see what they were getting billed for by vendors. So it would be very easy for me to assign that to AI. I want you to audit these cost centers for these services. Here's the pricing schedule from the vendors. Confirm that, number one, the service happened or the products were purchased and it was purchased at the contract price and is being charged properly. There's a lot of different things that can happen there. And the same thing with risk prediction and mitigation. Just like you can do continuous compliance monitoring, you can also be monitoring your exposure to risk and minimizing that. And if artificial intelligence, based off of your parameters that you're setting the risk evaluations up at, can come back with a prediction that you're good, there needs to be a concern, you're fine, whatever it may be. And if it is a concern, it can come back and tell you what areas you need to mitigate that risk in. We talk about the integration with emerging technologies, things out there like blockchain or Internet of Things. Funny story, I had to talk to my internet provider the other day, and they literally said to me, how many things do you have connected to Wi-Fi? And I said, I don't know. I probably about maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5. Well, I was way off. I have my main phone. I have a backup phone. I have two laptops and a desktop. Even my thermostat in the living room is connected to Wi-Fi. So as an example, when I went on Christmas vacation and I was going to be away for a week, I turned the temperature down before I left. Whether in the wintertime, if my thermostat is set at 68, I turned it down to 52. It's warm enough. It's warm enough to keep the house warm. The pipes won't freeze, but I'm not heating the house for nobody to be here. And then before I left to come home, I could access the internet, and I have the app on my phone, and I could tell my thermostat, every hour increase the temperature by 2 degrees. And then by the time I got home, the thermostat in the house was heated to what it normally is. I probably had about 14 to 16 things in my house that were connected to Wi-Fi. I didn't know it. And it also told me things that people who had been in my house with phones or tablets or things like that, and identified who they are. So so again, just understand the Internet of Things and how it applies to your organization. How many cell phones do you have? Are you required to pull the text messages off? Are you required to retain voicemail messages? Tablets, same thing. What is it? And then quantum computing. Don't ask me about quantum computing. It's way above my head. but artificial intelligence can assist there as well. My big thing, which is why I saved it for the third slide, is ethics and responsibility. We want to make sure that there's bias detection and we eliminate that bias whenever possible. Data privacy and security is huge. In fact, you could probably put those on two different lines, data privacy and data security, because they're two different things. But privacy and the fact that we acknowledge people's privacy and honor their commitments to privacy and our commitment to them of their privacy. And one of those factors is security and making sure that only those people that should have access to those records actually do have it. And then for me, I think we need to be able to explain artificial intelligence. And to me, it's the people that are creating it, writing it, using it, asking us to implement it, incorporating it into their software. How are you using it? What is artificial intelligence doing? How does it work? A lot of times, people can't tell you how it works. You have artificial intelligence that may be working with information or collecting information, and people may not even realize it's being collected. So how does it work? And then finally, how do we hold artificial intelligence accountable? And how do we hold the people creating the use of artificial intelligence accountable? Just like I don't believe that when I say ask an app not to track, and I make that selection, I still believe they're tracking my information, even though I've said not to. But I don't have any say over that. If they're doing it behind the scenes and I don't know about it, that's a problem. How do we get that exposed? Okay, we have another question. How does this AI destruction model at retention time match up with this has potential archival value? Again, archiving is different than records management. And to me, when we talk about archiving, that means we're keeping it for a mighty long time, if not permanently. And artificial intelligence would need to know that. And so would it need to be in your retention schedule. Or are there things being saved from an archival standpoint that's outside of the retention schedule? So the biggest challenge when it comes to technology is formatting. So it's not the only challenge, trust me, but for a records person, formatting, because if I have a format of a record today, how long are we going to be able to read that format down the road? So when we think about records being kept permanently, whether it be for a commercial business or a government business or 50 years or 75 years, you have to stay up to date on the methods and the formats to retain those methods. We talked about the other week where there's an organization, we won't say the name of the organization, but they have an underground in a mountain facility where in the movie industry and music industry, they have all the recordings, original tapes, original masters of audio and video. They maintain the equipment to read this stuff, even though the equipment could be 50 to 100 years old. They can make you a copy of it to current day format so they don't compromise the original because of its value. But again, when it comes to using artificial intelligence and archiving, we have to make sure that not only can we retain the record for as long as we need to, that we can access its format or potentially change it to a new format if it turns out we can't maintain the ability to read the old format after a period of time. The big question that I have for you is, where do you want artificial intelligence to go? I don't want you to be a follower in artificial intelligence. I want you to be a leader. Have a say. Think about it. I don't expect you to give me an answer now, but I want you to come out and say, what do I want artificial intelligence to do for me in records management in the future? I want you to be a part of the solution and the growth of artificial intelligence. Don't just let somebody else tell you what artificial intelligence is going to do. Be a part of the solution so that you're working on what you know as a records manager will be beneficial for you as well. All right, we're going to end with the Records Management Extreme Championship performance tip. This semester is pretty much coming to a close, and I want you to enjoy your summer, but I also want you to know there's no rest for the records management professional. Keep up on the education over the summer. make time to continue to educate yourself with books and webinars and seminars and other records management and information governance events. Whatever association you may belong to, or maybe you don't belong to one, but you participate in some of their events, which could be virtual or close to you in proximity, so you can get there in person. Be a sponge. Always be looking to bring in and soak up new information whenever you can, and continually learn. Our profession is always changing, and we need to change with it, but we also need to understand what those changes are so we see them when they happen. All right, I want to congratulate you. You have completed Class 5. We are at the top of the hour. These are the things that we've talked about today. I hope we've covered all the areas of AI that you were looking for. And I want to say congratulations. The IDEA Spring 2025 semester has come to a close. You have now graduated. And it's been so long since I've graduated. I don't know whether you moved the tassel from the left side of your cap to the right or the right to the left, but either way, congratulations. You have graduated from this semester. And in my book, you're all number one. So thanks for attending the IDEA Spring 2025 semester and being a part of it with me. I want you to look for an email in the very near future. It'll contain a survey to complete. I really would appreciate you completing that survey. And once you complete it, you'll receive an email with a certificate. You'll be able to customize and download. The one you see on the right side of this screen is last year's certificate. I just put my name into it so you can see what it looks like. You'll get that, and you can put your information in it as well. And it notes all the continuing education credits you get. But I also want to say, just like I want you to have input with artificial intelligence and be a part of how the future is with artificial intelligence, you have the same control when it comes to IDEA and the fall 2025 semester. We just completed the spring one, and the fall semester isn't until September, October, but I've already started working on it. So it's really important to me that you're a part of that. In the fall, we started with Records Management 101. In this semester, we talked about raising the bar, and I hope we did that. I hope it was beneficial. My question to you is, where do we go from here? We go from here with you completing the survey. Tell us what's important to you for us to talk about in the next semester. So when you see a question that says, what are the challenges at your organization, or what's the most important topics you can think we can talk about, give us ideas, give us those challenges that you've got. And that's how a lot of this semester was put together, based off of the answers that we got from those surveys. And we want to make it better. We want to make it better for you and for everybody else that participates here. Also want to say that we have something here at Innovative Development, who is the sponsor of the IDEA spring semester. We call the RIM Blueprint. It's a free consultation with one of our RIM experts. You've heard his voice, you've heard his name. It's Rich Slaughter. You get an opportunity to discuss your challenges, you hear about strategies and goals, and what you'll receive is a high-level plan focused on your 5-year goals. So if you'd like to, please reach out to Rich. His email is right here, richard.slaughter@id-llc.com. He'll be more than happy to schedule an appointment with you if you like and talk about the RIM Blueprint and see how things are going with the organization, and if we can make any suggestions on how it could be better for you. Innovative Development and the people at IDEA, myself, Rich, you heard Cody this year, you heard Vince this year. The semester's over, but we also participate and will be in a number of places in May. We're going to be talking at the ARMA Milwaukee Spring Mania semester event. I don't know whether I got that totally right, but we'll be doing our presentation about On the Road Again, the intersection of RIM and e-discovery. Cody and Vince and I will be doing that on May 7th. I'll be doing a virtual presentation to the ARMA Orlando chapter, but you can all attend if you want. It's a fun topic I've done, not for IDEA, but in the past, in one of my past lives, is talking about learning records management and information governance by going to the movies. I will review 3 movies that have been in the box office. I'll tell you what you thought the movies were about, and then I'll tell you how they're actually lessons in records management and information governance. I'll be doing that virtually for ARMA Orlando on May 5th, 14th. On the 15th, the ARMA Keystone chapter will be having their annual seminar. You can be in person or you can be virtual, so we'll be there. And finally, there'll be a panel discussion moderated by our own Amanda Rohde, and that's navigating RIM and utilities and energy industry on May 21st. So again, that's Innovative Development IDEA in the month of May. I want to thank you for attending today's class in the 2025 spring semester. If you ever want to reach out to me and send me an email, I'd love to chat with you. Raymond.Davis@id-llc.com. And again, wishing you all a great summer. So Please participate in that survey, and we hope to see you for the IDEA Fall 2025 semester. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Have a great summer, and we'll see you in the fall. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care.